Could the space wars of science fiction become reality? Space is increasingly becoming weaponized. While that may seem very far away, the dangers felt on Earth would be all too real.
Americans would feel an immediate impact. Our ability to pump gas into our cars or withdraw money from our banks would be very much threatened.
In this special report, we dive into how this could all play out, the steps being taken, and how space maybe isn't so far away. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. It's been called the final frontier. And in recent decades, the race to space has only gotten bolder. But part of that contest has changed. Now, it's about weaponizing space. A recent report by the Defense Intelligence Agency states that space is being increasingly militarized.
Militarization of space has already occurred. It occurred decades ago. The real question is weaponization. Are we going to put weapons platforms into space? Are we going to threaten satellites in space with weapons?
That's Brandon Weichert, author of Winning Space: How America Remains a Superpower. The DIA report goes on to note both China and Russia see space as a must for winning modern wars. China's test of a hypersonic missile last year caught the world off guard. But maybe it shouldn't have. Weichert notes the difference between events described as a black swan versus a gray rhino.
Black Swan is a totally unanticipated event. It's something that we, never saw coming, and when it arrives, it completely devastates and upends the existing order, and it will continue to do so until a new equilibrium is found. A gray rhino, as my friend Michelle Wucker has written about in her wonderful book of the same name, she coined the phrase, is basically it's a phenomenon or a problem that you see way down the line, but you figure it's not a priority right now. You've got time to figure it out, so just ignore it until it's stampeding over you and you're being crushed under the weight of the problem.
So how would those terms translate to space development? Weichert notes if America continues on the path it has, we could end up with a space Pearl Harbor.
Unlike 9/11 and unlike the original Pearl Harbor, we don't have the kind of latent capability to survive and to hit back if we lose those key satellites in orbit. And furthermore, our satellites are so integral to everyday life, more so than our fleet at Pearl Harbor was, more so than even those Twin Towers and the part of the Pentagon that was blown up were on 9/11. If we lose enough of those satellites, there's no putting Humpty Dumpty back together again. We lose our country in a way. We lose our economy, certainly, and we'll probably lose the next war, and then we're living in a whole new world.
And why are these satellites so important?
The satellites that we rely on, that we've relied on for 30 plus years now, without those systems, neither our military nor our civilian society can function at all, really.
But that's not all. Weichert notes,
knock out our command and control satellites for our nuclear weapons in geosynchronous orbit, or you knock out the wideband global SATCOM satellite system, you knock out the MUOS system the Navy relies on to coordinate naval forces around the world. You've basically rendered the U.S. military deaf, dumb, and blind.
So why would satellites be so important in times of war?
Any war with Russia or China will be occurring closer to Chinese and Russian territory, so we'll have to go beyond our territory across an ocean, and we'll need those satellites for logistical pinpoint assistance as well as for surgical strikes and for coordinating our forces. You remove those systems and you have effectively rendered us combat ineffective. You could potentially shut down our economy. Our society as we know it could ground to a halt, which could create chaos here at home.
But that's something we could prevent if steps are taken. Dr. Malcolm Davis, Senior Analyst in Defense Strategy and Capability at ASPI in Canberra, Australia, offers 3 steps to do it.
At least in terms of Western liberal democracies, is to strengthen resilience in space. And what that means is having the ability to augment existing satellite capabilities with larger numbers of small satellites that can share the load, and so that we're not putting so much dependency on a small number of large satellites. Secondly, there's a process known as disaggregation, where we share space support across multiple satellites, so that if some satellites are taken out, it degrades gracefully rather than catastrophically. Thirdly, the focus is on rapid reconstitution, the ability to rapidly launch satellites in a matter of hours or days to essentially recreate and reestablish essential space support.
As for other options, Rick Fisher, Senior Fellow at the International Assessment and Strategy Center, offers some advice.
Main action that the United States can take, and has been taking, I would say, for several decades, is to try to develop counter space capabilities that would deter China and Russia from attacking American satellites. Now, on the other side of the coin, the United States says very, very little about what capabilities it has developed, because we want to try to set an example. We want to try to convince the Russians and Chinese not to use their capabilities, not to develop them.
In that vein, Vice President Kamala Harris announced recently the U.S. would be banning anti-satellite missile tests. Fisher says those comments amount to virtue signaling.
Largely as a way to appeal to American arms control advocates, groups that advocate for curtailing such capabilities in space, because our enemies are not going to follow this example.
Past examples of those kinds of tests include Russia's ASAT test last November that left 1,500 pieces of debris in the sky, nearly destroying the International Space Station. Or China's launch in 2007 that created around 3,000 pieces of debris still careening through space today. Weichert notes the dangers those abilities pose to the U.S.
Right now, what we have is a very bizarre instance where the United States is heavily dependent on space. Our enemies know it, and our enemies are completely going full bore in developing and testing their own ASAT weapons, whereas we appear to be on the brink of trying to basically, unilaterally disarm ourselves in space at this critical moment, which is not where we need to be.
But it's not just ASAT tests. There are also other kinds called soft kill. Dr. Davis points to jammers as one example.
Yeah, these are what's known as soft kill capabilities, in the sense that they don't physically destroy the satellite, but they just disable it or deny it for use. And what that would mean is if an adversary undertook a large-scale campaign in space using these soft kill measures, what's commonly termed a Pearl Harbor in space, you would have very substantial and immediate effects on society and the economy. Our day-to-day lives would be affected.
But just how would that play out?
For example, the stock market can't function without access to timing signals from GPS satellites. So the stock market would absolutely, essentially fall apart in terms of their ability to undertake financial trading. That would cause huge economic instability across the planet.
But there's more. That's all for today's China in Focus on YouTube. We're now sharing a shortened version of our program on YouTube. That's after being demonetized for a year. Full episodes can be watched on our partner platform, Epoch TV. To sign up for a 14-day free trial, please click the link down below. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer, and see you tomorrow.
Every once in a while, something comes along, so masterful, it leaves you in awe. So inspiring, it changes your life. So beautiful, you wish it would never end. When that happens, it's something not to be missed. Shen Yun, an all-new production every year.
The performance was enchanting.
I feel better about the world. I feel uplifted.
It touches you. It really does.
The expertise of the dancers was really, really strong.
To know that it was live music was really fantastic.
We didn't want to miss this.
Make sure you see it.
Have to come. Life-changing.